episode 26. I'm producer Sydney Corra, right next to longtime and well-respected motorsports insider Kurt Hansen. Kurt, it's good to be here with you today. It feels good to be recording another podcast.
Yeah, boy, it's a couple of weeks off, but I like that well-respected part. I guess maybe you, my mother, my wife are included in it. You might be the only three. And are you drinking green goo again today?
No, I'm just drinking water.
Oh, okay. I've heard water is good for you.
Yeah, well, I heard that too. So
yeah,
give me a shot.
Yeah, they actually found water. Was it on Mars or the moon or something? I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
I know we're a motorsports video cast, but man, and you know, I'm not a Bronco hater. I'm the first one to say that. And what the hell happened last weekend?
I don't know, man. We had an opportunity to score one more, and then it got called back, and just I don't really know. My focus has been on CU more than it's been on the Broncos. So
yeah. Well, they kind of got, but I don't think a lot of people were surprised at the final score. I think a lot of people are surprised as information comes out now. The CU kids did not behave very well, and that's disappointing. I guarantee that Prime has had conversations with everybody in a very a tonal manner. I'll leave it at that because that's a bad look. What
happened with the players?
Well, pregame, a bunch of Shedeur Sanders or maybe Shiloh. I think it was Shiloh and a couple other guys were, calling the Oregon players a bunch of fat asses, and they were stomping on the logo and saying, I think Shiloh said, we're going to, what is this? We're going to run through that ass. And I mean, they, as the information trickles out now, a lot of people just thought that the coach at Oregon was really out of place in his statements about not playing for clicks. We play on the field. And I think they thought, at least the early returns were, what is wrong with this guy? Here comes a team that's hot. Yeah, they've got some O-line and D-line issues. Their top offensive player besides Shedeur is out. But it looks like the CU kids kind of went hood rat, and that, that has been kind of, they've been known to do that in the past. I mean, if you look at stories of behavior of CU players in the past, Eric Bieniemy being one of them, which some people feel is maybe stymied his career from really putting him at the front of being a head coach in the NFL. He makes a lateral move. Basically, he's assistant head coach at the Commanders now. But I mean, there's a lot of stories not in the Windy City, but in the Mile High City about, past behavior and stuff. And I guarantee with the positive wave that coaches built, and I mean, when you've got game day and the two major outlets, Fox on one end of the field and ESPN on the other, and hundreds of thousands of people flocking to Boulder for a football game and all riding that warm and fuzzy, I can guarantee a company like Disney, who prides himself on being squeaky clean, that's not a good look. It's not, and I guarantee, I don't think, at least I hope not, we hear about that kind of behavior in the future. But kind of an interesting week here in the Mile High, my team didn't do any better. They laid an egg on Monday night. So
who, the 49ers?
No, the Raiders.
Oh, you're a Raiders fan? What?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay, right.
Yeah, I'm from the Bay Area. My dad was one of the first season ticket holders when they started playing at Frank Ewell Field, which is now Laney College Field, which is down in the bowels of Oakland. And we had our own private box, at the Coliseum for decades. And I've been to the Terrible Towels game. I've been to Sea of Hands. I've been to a lot of great Raider games. And it seems like, no disrespect intended, but I don't think anybody in Denver, even the coaching staff, can put their finger on what's wrong. And I feel bad for VJ. I think he got a raw deal here the first time. And I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. he looks confused on the sideline, but I feel bad for the man. He did a good job in Arizona. They wouldn't have brought him here if he didn't. And I think he's being made the fall guy again. But it did look like that defense quit in the second half. And I get that. They're getting boat raced, and they look tired, which is interesting. Nobody likes to play in Miami in the heat. They brought their own sunshade and misters and stuff. But I feel bad for VJ, but I also, feel bad for some of the people over in the Raider camp because, it just seems like that train is not on the track either. The Broncos have fallen off the track. That train is laying on its side in a field somewhere in Ohio. At least the Raiders are wobbling down the track, but they got to find some continuity soon. And I don't get it with Hunter Renfrow. And
well, I think the Broncos. It's just interesting because it's being revealed that a lot of the problems aren't just because of Hackett. You know. But one thing that before we move on to racing, which is what our show is about,
no shit.
Here's what I'll say about CU. Okay, so I think that everything that's going on is awesome. Like, it's so cool, right? Like, Deion Sanders is the shit. Like, it's dope.
No, I know.
Okay, so you watched the CSU game, right? CU, CSU? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
The whole time I'm watching that game, like, I watched it with my boyfriend and his little siblings, and, like, they were all like, "Oh, like, it's so cool! Like, the Rock is on the sidelines, like, Offset, all these rappers, all these people." The whole time, I'm just sitting there thinking, "Oh no, like, this is not. Why would you do that?" Now, that sort of showboat like behavior gives every single team that you play for the rest of the season like explosive motivation to buck you up bad. Bad. So much so that the Oregon coach, those boys with the 300 different uniforms, now even Oregon gets to talk about playing for clicks. Like, they're the most clickbaity team in college football. And now that's what they say in their locker room to motivate you. Every single team in the locker room before they play CU is saying the same exact shit.
Yeah.
So I don't know why. I think it's CU's PR, CU's social media team. They need to they don't understand that college football is about winning games. And they need to hunker down because
and when one of the top stories is that Prime's Lamborghini got a parking ticket by the stadium. I mean, it feels more like we're playing in Los Angeles, and I kind of get that. But
the high was really, really high. I wanted it to be. I wish that they could have just vibrated here. But instead, they're going from a real, real high, and they're about to drop to a real low because they're about to get their butts kicked a couple of times. I see maybe 2 more wins in the rest of their schedule, maybe in Arizona and somewhere else, I forget. But I just
what's sad is when we spend 20 minutes talking about a team that got boat racing. If it wasn't for Coach McDaniels I believe it's McDaniels in Florida. Deciding just to sit on the ball, which is ironic because listening to all of our compatriots here in the Denver sports media, they all pretty much are in agreement that if it'd been the other way around and had been Sean Payton, he'd have kicked the field goal.
Yeah.
Because Sean's kind of that guy. So anyway, let's
move on to why don't we just get right into it with some NASCAR?
Let's talk about Talladega. Let's talk about some real romance sports. Right. The number one spectator sport in the world and in the U.S. Shocking. Sorry, don't mean to. I don't get me wrong. I love football. It's just, oh my God. Anyway, so I've been saying this kind of all season long too. I've been waiting for someone to kind of step up and be the guy, and it seems like that guy could be William Byron. I spoke to him at length last year at Phoenix, and I really enjoyed his personality. He's kind of quiet. He's very insightful. I love the big hat thing, which NASCAR has come out and wrapped on them because it's not an official hat product. But I like
It's not
it.
an official sponsor of NASCAR.
Right. So, but I like it, and I liked William Byron as soon as I met him. I also really liked Chase Briscoe when I talked to him in Phoenix last year.
Yeah.
Not the season that Chase won it, obviously. Speaking of Stuart Haas, Ryan Preece will be back next year in the 41. I mean, this guy was one of the badass, or maybe one of the badasses ever in super modifieds on the East Coast. So he's getting better, but it's a project. It's a work in progress. We'll see what happens. But I'm glad that Ryan is back because he's a pretty cool dude. But Chase Briscoe seems to be kind of taking the bull by the horns, and he's his drive.
Are you saying William?
Excuse me. Did I say Chase Briscoe?
Yeah. William Byron.
William Byron. Yeah, it's okay. Bees, all that. Byron, Briscoe. But it seems like William Byron is making that surge and is getting hot at the right time.
He's taking the reins.
Yeah, I think he's taking the reins. Martin Truex is back there. I think he's in 5th or 6th. He's got a lot on his plate. That team has kind of been up and down this year. I'm a big Martin Truex fan, and I like all the guys. That's people say, well, who's your guy? If I had to pick a guy, I guess it would probably be Martin because I got to know him. Not great. He's kind of quiet, and I get it. When he was here with Furniture Row, but it seems like William Byron is kind of becoming that guy. Right now it's Byron Hamlin and Chris Buescher. And I said a few shows ago that Chris Buescher all of a sudden became like a thing. And I know that RFK, every time I say that, I think bad words. But Roush Fenway Keselowski has really made strides. And so is BK. And I'm not a BK guy, but how do you not like Chris Buescher? And he's 3rd in the championship right now. Ross Chastain is still looming back there. I don't know. It's going to be a lot of fun at Talladega this weekend. It's and this is a cutoff race, and Bubba Wallace is, he's looming, but he's one place out of making the cutoff. He was very dominant last weekend, and then just kind of seemed like they lost their way. I don't know. Some people talk about tires, maybe bad set of tires. Michael Jordan was known as being the closer, and he wanted the ball in his hands with 2 seconds left, and he proved that time and time and time again. I'm not sure if Bubba has that mentality. He's been a bridesmaid a whole bunch of times. He's won a couple races, but it's good for the sport for Bubba to make it. But if I had to gamble on one of the guys making it out of that pack of 4, I would put my money on Kyle Busch. I mean, the guy's been there. He's done it. He's a champion. He is Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch is Kyle Busch. So if somebody's going to make it out of that pack of 4, I remember too, Bubba and Kyle and, whatever. But I think Kyle Busch is going to be the guy that makes it out of that pack. I'm not big on predictions, but Mark, I just did check. I mean, I did make some notes, right? I never do that, but it's been a lot on my plate too. But Martin's 5th, so he's in it. I think he keeps moving on, but they gotta find the right mojo. It just seems like, it's like a souffle, and it's pretty good, but there's something missing. So we'll see what happens.
Who would you say? I mean, it's pretty obvious, but who's the Michael Jordan of NASCAR
right now?
Like, no, of all time. Like, who's just Michael Jordan of NASCAR?
There's been so many eras, but it's hard to vote against Jimmy Johnson. I mean, 7-time champion. Are you kidding me?
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so
I thought you were going to say like Dale Earnhardt or something.
Dale Earnhardt Sr. was the intimidator, but I'm not sure if I'd call him the closer. Now, he did close a lot of races, don't get me wrong. But I'm not going to put Richard Petty in that category because Petty had such an advantage back in the day. And yeah, you race the races that are put in front of you, like you play the schedule in front of you in the NFL or baseball or whatever the deal may be. But it was such a different time and era. It's hard to draw a lot of parallels. Like, could Babe Ruth hit all those home runs now in Major League Baseball? I don't know, man. The sport's changed so much.
Yeah.
You can't draw those parallels. So I guess if you put Michael Jordan era-ish, even though his era has been over for a long, long time, I would say of his era-ish would be Jimmy Johnson. But I'm not sure we'll see a 7-time champion again in NASCAR. It's just the sport is so competitive, and I mean, a $5 part can fail. You can get a bad set of tires and drive yourself to the back of the pack. You can get caught up in somebody else's mess. I don't think we'll see that
ever.
I don't want to say ever, because who knows what happens when I'm gone. God, I hate to think about that.
You think that the health of NASCAR is better when there is a figure like that? Or
it's kind of like when the Steelers were dominating the NFL every year. People got sick and tired of the Steelers. Speaking of to your team, the Yankees, when it was the Yankees every year, you develop haters because people just don't want to see you win all the time. It's like politics. You may not like your guy, but you like your guy. You hate the other guy more, or whatever it is. Everybody's got a reason. It's like the big term now is I'm fiscally conservative and socially liberal. It's like, okay, straddle. What state are you from? You're down in Four Corners straddling, Arizona and Colorado. You're a Colorado, whatever the hell you want to call it.
Yeah.
A Calazonian. Ooh, I like that. Not a calzone, but a Calazonian.
Oh, man.
So you're a Colorado Arizonian. Whoa. Yeah, that's kind of scary. We have a lot of those people here in Denver now that aren't sure who they are, or what they are. Send all emails to Sydney Corra.
Write me an email.
SydTheKid.com or SydTheKid at GoGetALife.com.
Yeah.
If we're talking the last 20, 30 years in NASCAR, I got to be Jimmy Johnson.
Sure.
And I don't know if it's hard to say never, as we say in anything, but it's awful tough. Now, when you look at a guy like Mr. Hendrick, Mr. H, he's got a lot of championships. So as a team owner or a manufacturer, we've had that happen, many times. But as a driver points championship, one guy, going to be pretty tough, road to hoe. So I don't know.
All right. Well, why don't we, Kurt, you ready to move on to
Well, I just wanted to, Kyle Busch Motorsports, which was so dominant in the truck series forever, has sold to Spire Racing, which has a 77 car in NASCAR. And I believe it's a 7 car in Corey LaJoie, which is a guy I really like also. Corey's got to get better equipment. I'm not sure if he's the superstar behind the wheel, but I do like him. He's been on Race Central Radio. He's a cool cat. He gets it. People like him a lot. He pitches pennies. I mean, like Ross Chastain smashes watermelons. He's a watermelon farmer from Florida. It's cool to have your gig. William Byron, a lot of people might not know, is a big-time snowboarder. When I talked to him in Phoenix last year, he said he couldn't wait to get to Colorado to do some shredding. Actually, he said, for winter, I said, well, you a skier or a shredder? He goes, I'm a shredder. Which is funny because he's kind of diminutive and he's very quiet. And to hear, that guy say shredder was pretty funny. So, it's going to be interesting championship. Denny Hamlin is looming again. He's been a bridesmaid also. He's kind of like the Susan Lucci of NASCAR. He wins Daytona. He wins, but, so inconsistent. But it's going to take a lot to beat the Hendrick guys. And when it comes down to crunch time, there's essentially 4 of them and 1 of him. Because I don't think Martin Truex is going to be doing Denny any favors. Could Bubba Wallace come into play, because if he doesn't advance to the next round and is out of the championship round, could he be a fly in the ointment? Like back in the day when drivers had teammates and they were really slow, they called them blocking drivers. Well, the reason you're a blocking driver is because you're so fucking slow. You couldn't drive nails in a snowbank anyway, so they called you a blocking driver, right? But anything can happen. I've seen bizarre stuff. When I was racing Formula Atlantic, there was a big claim that a guy named Mike Palumbo, who was a pretty good driver, raced for Della Penna Racing, and John, bless his soul, was a good friend of mine. His brother was a good friend. I bought my engine in my Atlantic car from John. There was a rumor that he hired Mike Palumbo to come out and take, I believe it was Jovi Marcello. It could be wrong, but take one of the championship contenders out at one of the oval races late in the season, the year Jimmy won the championship in Atlantics. And there was a big, brouhaha. So like, why is this guy pitting? And he comes out right in front of the leaders and then, pushes the one of the championship contenders up into the wall. And there was a big brouhaha about that. That didn't help his career much.
Yeah.
But, hey, it's like in drag racing, you go against a teammate's not in the championship. And, they say, well, that he laid down so his teammate could win to advance. There's a lot of shenanigans in the big city. And we'll kind of leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, how about Doug Kalitta and the NHRA going back to back?
Boy, talk about a guy. This is a very strange cat. Had him on the show years ago, and I did it as a favor to a gal named Gabrielle Stevenson, who was head of media for the NHRA back in the day when I had my show on KMBR in San Francisco. And she's like, I've really been working with Doug a lot, and we need to get him. And the guy was like, like talking to a tree. And he's a very strange cat. Yeah. And I remember, I think it was 2 years ago in Phoenix, he was number one qualifier and, first round, going against really not a very competitive car, and just smoked the tires on the hit. Just basically,
oh gosh, he's older.
He crapped the bed. Super inconsistent, and he's never been the same since Tony Schumacher went against him. It was he or Kalitta to win the championship, Pomona. This is probably a decade ago. Tony had to go and qualify P1 to pick up a point to close in on Doug, who was leading. Then he had to go. He had one more thing he had to do. I think he had to go low for the provisional number one qualifier, and then he had to set low ET or a speed record, and he did that. So he was tied with Doug, and they went to the final round together at Pomona for the season finale. This is what I said about a decade ago, and they call it the run because Tony just, bitch slapped him. And the championship was right there for Doug to win. And he lost the championship. He's never been the same since. Well, all of a sudden, this guy, Doug Kalitta, who's really kind of not been a factor much for a long time, has now won 2 races in a row. He goes for a third this weekend. I would be stunned beyond stunned. I might start growing hair again if he wins a third in a row, because the consistency is not there. And a lot of the other guys that are really kind of in it to win it, Justin Ashley, our good friend Stevie Torrance, and Justin, Antron Brown, they faltered. So, it was kind of Dougie's to lose, and he didn't. But I think it's going to be really, really tough this weekend to go, 3 in a row. But good for Doug. The Kalitta name is like the Force name, the Schumacher name. Uh-huh. They are kind of the heart and soul of the NHRA.
He's 59 years old. Did you know that?
He's been around a while.
Yeah.
And he's very quick. He's weird. In Phoenix, the year he smoked the tires on the hit and just he screwed it all up. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't like one thing; it was a bunch of things. I saw him in the hospitality as we were listen to me. We were guests of Kalitta, right? With Elon, because Elon was handling their drivers, and he peeked his head out of the hauler, and there was a lot of people out there. Oh, they had good steaks too. And he peeks out and he sees everybody looking at him, and he was disappeared back in the hauler, slapped the doors, and never came out again. And then he came out about an hour later, and he snuck around the back to get some food, and kind of snuck up and put some food on his plate behind the serving area, and disappeared back in the hauler, because I think he was very embarrassed. He's a different guy. I wish him success. The Kalitta name is legendary. They've got some good guys over there, J.R. Todd and Sean Langdon. I don't know. I would not, if I was a betting man, I would bet for Doug Kalitta to not win a third in a row, and he might even go out in the first round. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Well, I hope he does. I hope he gets 3 in a row. I hope he goes back to back to back.
Well, I do too, because then I'll start growing hair again. I told you, if he wins 3 in a row, I'll start growing hair.
Yeah, Kurt, have you ever thought about dyeing those little white fluffies there?
They are dying. That's the problem.
Have you ever dyed your hair?
Yeah. I'm a natural brunette.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but as it started to go real thin, I thought, well, if it's going to go thin, I might as well just make it look cool.
Yeah, we should get you a wig.
Oh, please, Sydney. Yeah, a green one. Green on one side and purple on the other. Yeah. And a like a 25-year-old Subaru Forester.
Yeah, that'll be perfect.
Or a PT Cruiser.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, a PT Cruiser.
Like a purple PT Cruiser.
Yeah, dude, a PT Cruiser with a purple wig?
With an old tired mountain bike on the back. And 4 bald tires, all different brands.
Yeah, and a bunch of stickers on the back.
Well, you will see that person driving into the mountains in the worst snowstorm in history sometime this winter in Colorado, and they can't see out the back window because of all the stickers, and they'll be off the side of the road in the ditch, and they don't know why, and they have 4 bald tires, and they'll be trying to pump air in their mountain bike with a hand pump, but they forget to hook it up to the tire, or they'll put snow chains on the rear wheels of their front wheel drive car.
Wow, that sounds very personal. It sounds like you've seen specifically that thing before.
Growing up in Lake Tahoe, I have seen it all, young lady.
Well, we're coming up here on 30 minutes, so do you want to? Yeah, I know time flies. Martin Truex.
Well, let's real quick touch on. So there's six I use as quote unquote races left in Formula One. The difference, Max Verstappen, Maxi Ax, I call him, has 400 points. His teammate has 223, which is unbelievable. I don't think there's been a almost 200-point difference between first and second in ever. And that just shows how dominant the Red Bull cars are. Sergio Perez is second. And I mean, it's like I said, I say races because basically this is the Max Verstappen show. I mean, if Netflix comes back and does a series on this season, it's going to be a tough one. One of the good storylines, though, is Fernando Alonso. His kind of resurgence. I think he's 4th in the championship right now. Sergio should be okay with Red Bull next year. He's had some blunders this year, but what are you going to do? I mean, you could put anybody in that second Red Bull, and they're going to be second to Max. Lewis Hamilton has clawed his way back in the championship at 3rd. It would take a miracle, literally. Like the Broncos going to the Super Bowl, it would take a miracle for Lewis Hamilton to win the championship this year. I don't think anybody's really upset about that except the people at Mercedes and his sponsors. And Bronco fans, trust me. Besides that one time you saw Lewis Hamilton at that bitch slapping that the Rams gave the Broncos, you will not see Lewis Hamilton at a Bronco game. Or Justin Bieber. They are good friends. But, Formula One's going to wrap up. We got 6 races to go. They're off for a little bit right now. I mean, I still like watching it, but it's kind of tough when you kind of almost know the outcome, except for Fernando Alonso. And having said that also, Lance Stroll had one of the worst accidents I have ever seen in a Formula One car. And it seems like it took forever for the safety crews to get there. I mean, the fact that he stepped out of the car says tremendous things about the strength of the cars in Formula One, because that was really, 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 really bad. And maybe 10 years ago, he doesn't step out of the car. So good to see that he's okay. But there's some rumors that, there may be some changes over there. His dad owns a team, Lawrence. That could be a tough one. A little tidbit, a young lady just tested um, uh, in Formula One, and Jessica Harkins, I think it is Harkins, tomato, just tested um, with Aston. I think this is more of a kind of a, because the big thing right now, the big talk is diversity, women in motorsports. I mean, all these bougie things that are easy to hang on to and stuff. I don't know if this is a real chance for her to progress in a Formula One car, but at least she got the test. She did pretty well. Oh, and on a local note, our good friend Sabra Cook from Grand Junction, who's racing for Kelly Moss Racing in GT3 Cup America, and a terrific young lady and a super talented, super smart. She could have a big, big career, but she had a really bad crash a week ago. She'll not be competing at one of my home tracks, which is Laguna Seca. I'm not going to say the name of the floor mat company that bought the name, but she won't be racing at Laguna Seca from her injury. She was injured earlier this season too, so good luck to Sabra. That's just kind of on a local note. And gosh, I had so much after being off for 2 weeks. But yeah, just to wrap up, there's been a lot of conversation in the news lately on comments regarding the passing of Sherry Polonix, Martin Truex's longtime, as they used to say, life partner, and they stopped using that a couple of years ago. It was pretty apparent that her cancer was coming back. And when it was announced during the season that they had broken up, I kind of knew what that meant. Being in a family where I'm dealing with, that kind of stuff, it makes sense to me, and it's really sad. Texas, it was really impressive. They had a moment of silence for Sherry Polonix, and they had her up on the leaderboard and the big screen. She had a beautiful shop in NASCAR country, I believe, off of Lake Norman, called Lavender, because it was her favorite color. And I know people that have personally shopped there because they felt like they were supporting Sherry Strong and the Martin Truex Foundation.
Yeah,
and it's just I met her once, very, very, very briefly, and I got to know Martin pretty well, as well as you probably get to know Martin being a media person. But we connected on different levels. Like when I made shirts, when we had the Root for Marty party the year he won the championship, and then they came here and we had the big celebration, where I got in big trouble because I told all of our following that we were going to be at the showroom, and they had like 5,000 people show up. And the media person from French shows, because Kurt, you weren't supposed to announce that we were having a media day here. I said, well, it was a media release, and it didn't say for media members only, so I did. And they went, obviously, you have a huge following. We love you all. But that was pretty funny. But I had shirts made, Root for Marty party for the party. And then I gave one to Joe Garoni, who was the president of Furniture Racing. And to Marty, he goes, you had a party for me? And he's like, that's really cool, Kurt. And then he's a big Philadelphia Eagles fan. So I gave him a Philadelphia Eagles iPhone cover. And he's like, whoa, dude, this is like unprecedented. But he never talked much about Sherry because I think, they were very private people, except when they were doing things for their foundations and, support their foundations, even though Sherry is no longer here with us. They're good foundations. They do good things. They give a lot of money. They're not like a lot of 501c3s that, you don't know where the money goes, and it's not good stuff. But, there's been a lot of people making comments about what Danica Patrick said, but I have to believe that just because they separated, that their feelings didn't separate.
sure.
I can't imagine what Martin is going through, being a personal reveler of this scenario. It's got to be very hard. They spent 18 years together.
Yeah.
And I think when they stopped using the term life partner a couple of years ago, because her cancer came back 2 years ago, because we were seeing her fairly frequently at the races. She was out in public and she kind of disappeared. And I didn't ask Martin, but I just kind of went, Sherry, kind of, and he went, and I kind of knew. And then they stopped using the life partner term, which I understand. But you're just because she's passed doesn't mean they aren't life partners forever.
Yeah.
So, keep Sherry in your thoughts, keep Martin in your thoughts. It's I can't imagine getting excited and getting hyped up and going out and driving a race car at 200 miles an hour. I mean, you're not thinking about that in the car, but it takes every other moment of and I think, in my humble opinion, and this is the first time maybe ever I'm going to have very humble opinion or opinions. I think it was kind of, in my humble opinion, she was saying, "Look, I'm not getting better. You need to start phase 2.
Yeah.
I don't want you to be conjoined at the hip as this is going south, because you are going to find it too hard to move on in this environment."
Yeah.
And if that's what happened, I'm not saying it did, but that is so incredibly strong. And, some people have made comments about Martin showing up at the racetrack with another woman. We don't know if they're boyfriend and girlfriend. So speculators, just fucking slow your roll, man. People ripping Danica Patrick for her comments.
What did she say?
Well, she thought that the press release that was released by Martin and his people was written by a PR person and not very heartfelt. That's a tough comment to make, whether it was or whether it wasn't. I'm not going to take either side. And then she made the comment she never liked him anyway. That was a little harsh. That's kind of like sticking it in, turning it, and I don't know if that's appropriate, but I can't read Danica's mind. The only class I've ever failed in my life is mind reading, and as much as I like to do it, sometimes I have to do it for my lovely wife, because she'll say, "Put it over there," and I put it over there, and that's the wrong over there. Thank God I have you running the show on Race Central on the radio every Friday and doing this with me, because I trust you implicitly. You become like kind of an extended member of our family, and we appreciate you very much, Sydney Corra. And anything I can do to help further and promote your career, I'm all in, as you know. But just let things lie, people. Everybody deals with things differently, and just kind of take a time out. Because I had so many comments, even on my Facebook. It's hard to see, and just take a time out. Let the sleeping dogs lie, and support their foundations if you want to. When Justin Wilson tragically was killed, another very close friend of mine, I can't believe it's been 7 or 8 years, I connected up with Graham Rahal because they were best of buddies. Graham Rahal once said the best driver in IndyCar is Justin Wilson, and if he was in a Penske car, there may be no stopping him, which I totally agree with, and so many other people did too. But when I was with Furniture Row, we donated, Barney Visser and Joe, a lot of stuff to the auction that Graham started for Julia and the girls, and we helped raise a bunch of money. So, let's be nice to somebody. I try to. So on the end of every show, I say, do something nice for somebody. It goes a long ways. So, with that, I don't want to end on a downer, but I
think that's a great way to wrap it up.
If people are out there and they're watching, I know so many people do. They watch us on YouTube at Race Central Unplugged or on the website, or they tune in Fridays from 3 to 5 on the drive on AM 1600 or FM 104.3, or listen on the streaming at racecentralmedia.com. Do something nice for somebody. Take a time out, and let's try to get this shit back on track. Yeah. I talked to so many people, young and old, that are concerned about the directions that we're going, not just in the country, but in sports in general. And we touched on it with CU. Let's put our heart and put sport back in it, and kind of let all the me, I, my Rolex is bigger than your Rolex, or whatever, and let's do something good.
I agree, and I think with that we'll say goodbye to episode 26, and hopefully leave you on that note. And We'll be back here again next week for episode 27. But before that, we'll be on the radio this Friday from 3 to 5 on ESPN Denver 1600. And you can stream that on racecentral.com or
RaceCentralMedia.com. RaceCentralMedia.com.
It's Kurt. It's not that. I'm looking at it right now.
My website?
Your website. Hold on.
Is Race Central. Well, it's racecentral.live, but if you go to racecentralmedia.com, it'll redirect you to the site.
Okay. All right.
Gosh.
Okay.
I just said all those nice things about you.
I'm just making sure. Okay.
Right.
But you can also stream it directly from denversports.com or stream it directly from Kurt's website. And then, yeah.
Okay. Well, have a good day, kiddo. I look forward to seeing you on Thursday. Great job as always. How long did we go? Like 40 minutes. My God. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can barely stand looking at myself for that long. You not so much. Have a good one. We'll see you Friday, everybody. Be good out there. Be nice to somebody, and we'll catch you next time around.
All right. See you, everyone.